Welcome to Reefing Radio, your go-to salty station for reef aquarium talk, tips and interviews. Let's dive in.
Happy New Year and welcome to our kickoff episode for 2026. Today we're going to be talking about what we've been up to with our tanks over the Christmas holidays, the potential projects we've got for the coming year, and our New Year's resolutions in reefing for 2026. We've already talked about some of this on Reef Talks live stream, so you might have caught us a couple of weeks ago on Alex's live stream, which was really fun. Thanks to those who tuned into that episode, and thanks to Alex for having us on, and to those who are now following us off the back of that episode. As always, I'm joined by my Hawkfish homies, James and Gareth.
That's a good one.
The most fitting one so far, actually.
We'll just basically have a chat, have a catch up, talk about what we've got planned for the year and go from there. How are your Christmases? How are your New Year's?
I got a bit of time off work, which was nice, and had lots of family around, so always looking for distractions to spend less time with them and more time by myself, and the fish tank was a good way of being able to do that. So it was really, really nice from a reef keeping perspective. I really managed to get stuck in and do all the jobs that had been building up for a few months. I even went shopping. So yeah, good on my end.
Yeah, busy for me. Family time, young family. So lots of wild celebrations and going around doing things. So I'm probably at the end of the spectrum. I've done hardly anything with my tank compared to usual. So it's been a bit neglected, but hopefully start picking up on that in the next week or two.
What wild parties did you have, Gareth?
Oh, we had a particularly wild party where the kids dressed up as fairies and danced on the sofa, saying a dance party, and joined in, got dressed up in my fairy outfit and started dancing on the sofa.
Fairy Ras?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think Gareth's more of a flasher Ras.
Maybe not in front of the kids.
I'm more in James's camp, so it was a good opportunity for me to I had a couple of weeks, 2 weeks off or so. I spent that first week just trying to get the tanks back in order, and I don't know, sort of in the lead up, knowing that I was going to have this time off, I kind of neglected them a bit, thinking like, oh, it's okay, in a week's time I can do a water change or clean the glass or whatever. So glad to get some bits done. Have you guys set any resolutions for your reef tanks over the coming year?
I've set like some basic resolutions, which is like do a weekly 25 litre water change. For goodness sake, James. I caught myself at the weekend again this week. I said I'd had all this time at Christmas to get stuck into the tank and go shopping. Did I do my weekly water changes? No, I didn't. So I ended up finding myself, doing a 75 litre water change at the weekend. But the joy of it being like a softy, no bones, no skeleton found here tank is that actually everything responded really well to it. Nothing cared. So long as it was the salt water as well mixed and at a good temperature, similar parameters to what was in the tank, it didn't even look to the side. It's just an absolute pain lugging 25 litre barrels around, 75 litres in, 75 litres out. It's a small tank. It's like, how do you get the water into the tank? You got to use a pump. It's just challenging. So I think this year I'm going to probably invest and take a leaf out of your book, Chris, and build a little saltwater mixing station in the garage. I think I'm going to stick, I don't know how big to go. I'd take your guys' advice. I don't know how well saltwater really holds, but maybe 200 litre tank out there, which means I'll get about 8 weeks worth of water changes and then do 25. My sump holds 25 litres. So I'll just drain the sump using the pump every week and then just pour a 25 litre barrel of salt water in, and it'll really be straightforward, much quicker. So I'm going to get that set up, because as soon as that's set up, it'll sort of force me to do it, and just have 200 litres of salt water at the ready. I was thinking that maybe, do you heat yours, Chris, or do you leave it cold? Do you have a heater in there keeping it warm?
So no, I don't store it warm. I don't mix it warm either. I don't heat it up at all, basically, and don't even heat it to put it in the tank. I think BRS did like a bunch of tests. For some salts, actually heating it is worse. It causes precipitation and stuff like that. So I think, to be honest, mixing cold and storing cold is fine. I've never really tested it, but the tank's okay. So I don't think it's caused I'm not seeing like wacky parameters or anything. So I think it's all right. I make basically a month's worth at a time, but then I don't think I obviously skip a few water changes here and there. I'm not doing them religiously every week like I would like to. So I think I'm probably actually storing it sometimes for 2 months, and I don't really notice any issues. I also noticed you're using like big grey storage containers and stuff to do it in. I don't know whether I was trying to think, is there an easier way for you to do it? Like, could you get the barrels, or I think what makes it easier for me is doing smaller amounts. So I do like a 10 litre water change on both tanks, which is about 10%. And that's really easy to lug around and whatever, right? So I was going to ask, what is 25 litres as a percentage for your tank? Is that 10% or?
No, more
Okay.
than that. I don't have a clue, to be honest with you. I can't remember how many litres of water's in there. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's probably about 120 litres, maybe 150
Okay.
litres in there. But to be fair, I'm not sure that when I had the SBS dominant mixed reef, I was like not wanting to do too large of a water change just for stability, and I was really focused on that. And 10% was fine. Like with this one, like I really don't care. It
Yeah.
sounds really bad, but I think the 25 I've got 25 litre jerry cans. Like the sump holds 25 litres. It just allows me to. I mean, all I do is I put the ATO pump in from the reservoir into the sump,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
and then just drain it into. I've got a little hose that goes into the pipe outside. So you drain straight into the pipe, so I don't have to measure it out. And then I know that's 25 litres, and I put 25 litres in.
Okay.
So
Oh yeah, it already sounds quite straightforward then. Yeah.
yeah, the tricky, as you say, I use those big grey, like really useful boxes or whatever for mixing salt water in at the moment, but only when I'm doing like a large water change.
Okay.
So I could mix and store cold, and then just tap it off into a 25 litre drum in the garage, and then stick a heater in, and put it next to the tank and plug it in. That's probably the best way, the cheapest way to do it anyway, rather than keeping it heated in the garage and insulated.
Yeah, I don't think it
weeks.
needs to be heated anyway, so I think you'd just be wasting money. That's one of the best things I think I did, was buying like a big, I mean, for me, 80 litres is a month's worth for both tanks. So it's not massive, but they're big kind of cylindrical barrels, food safe. I think they're they're for brewing originally. So they've got like a
Okay.
food safe tap and stuff like that. So, and I expanded and got another one for RO. And that's amazing as well. So not having to like, oh, the ATO's run out. Oh, I need to make RO water. Like I normally always got, like as soon as it's run out, I start filling it back up, sort of thing. So
Yeah, the RO
um
making for me is a pain because the only tap that I have which is suitable for my machine is an outdoor tap. I don't have running water in the garage, so I have to make it into something that I can carry. So it's a big RO machine. I can't remember how many gallons per hour it does. I think
It was
it's
a lot.
450 gallons per hour or something like that. It's an absolute beast. In the summer, you can get a full 25 litres in a matter of minutes. So that's not too much of a hassle. But I'm not gonna start messing around moving the tap. I think I'll just be best off making 200 litres in a go, 300 litres. I could do that easily in a day, and then just pour 200 into the mixing container in the garage, and then just tap it off when I need it.
could you run like the little RO tube out a window or something? Because they push quite far, those pumps. Because even my one within the garage, it goes probably like 3 or 4 meters of tube into the barrel where I'm filling it up. I wondered whether you could do it, with oh no, so you're doing it outside on the garden tap.
Yeah, I'm on the
Ah,
garden
okay.
tap. Yeah,
Well, that's fine then, right? So yeah, as you say, just make 200 in one go, store it in the garage. Does
yeah,
that work? Like
yeah, yeah.
logistically? Okay.
It means that I've got to carry them around, but it's good for my working out.
Yeah, I guess if you only have to do it every 2 months, it's not such a big chore then.
Yeah, and I could even make more during the summer. If I could make sort of 3 or 4 months worth in the summer, see myself through the winter. Because making our, like last week, where it's 1 or 2 degrees, and you're messing around with an outdoor tap, absolutely freezing your knackers off. It makes you think, oh, why do I bother doing this? Yeah, water changes. That's one of my New Year's resolutions. I'll let somebody else go next. It could be like Christmas. We'll open a present each and take in turns.
Gareth, I was just curious, what do you do? Do you make your water change water every week, or are you storing it? We didn't talk about that when we saw your tank.
I do things on a bigger scale because I've obviously got a bigger tank. So I have 4 60-litre barrels, and 4 25-litre cans. I put I run RO off for both of them. So I guess I have about 300 litres of RO at peak production. And I use the barrels for my water changes, which a 60-litre barrel is about 20%, 10% water change for me. So then I also get through roughly 1 jerry can of RO a week. So between all those things, it kind of works out that 1 barrel, 1 can does me a week. So every 4 weeks, I run off all those different bits. So yeah, it works for me. It's pretty damn heavy, if I'm honest, 60 litres. But my tap's not a million miles away from where I store the barrels, so I can drag them, and then I drag them from there to the house and put them on a little trolley in the house. And I just change 60 litres and then dump it down the drain, and off we go. So it's heavy, but like I say, with the caster wheel trolley and things, it's not too bad.
You've got those big double doors that you can push it out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
This is definitely an area where small tanks win. I'm sorry, hands down. They're like, I think, as I said, I do 10 litres on both tanks, and it's a bit over 10% on both of them. And, I can easily carry that up and down the stairs. That's honestly, though, like, I'm so weak that even 15 litres and it starts to, like, I feel my back starting to tug or whatever going up the stairs of it. So, yeah, I think, honestly, like, getting a big tank, that would be a major limiting factor, I think, for me, is just the water changes.
I'm not saying it's related, Chris, but you're the only southerner out of the 3 of us. But...
Probably is something to do with it, yeah.
60 litres is good going, Gareth. Do you lift that up, mate? That's like 60 kilos, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like a deadlift. Well, once you've thrown some salt in it as well, but I try and mix it on the trolley so I don't have to lift it up with salt. But it's probably like squat lift.
That's serious weight. That's like 3 whole cheddars.
If you need a hand in the winter, I can come and pack some cheddars for you.
How do you mix the salt in your barrels, by the way?
I have an old return pump or a Eheim, what are the classic Eheims? The ones like run forever. I just throw one of those in with a heater, so I do heat my water
whilst you're mixing it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'll do it overnight. So I'll do it in nighttime. I'll throw it on. So it's funny, we're doing a New Year's resolutions, but I don't really have any because I have quite a set routine.
You're too good. Yeah, you're so good.
No, I'd say it's more stuck on the spectrum of like OCD kind of thing rather than too good. But it's like my routine is Sunday night. I get the barrel out, put the salt in, put a heater in, and then Monday morning I change the water, and I do that kind of religiously. So there's always a heater in there. There's always a return pump. So it's more than mix. It's more than up to temperature, and then I just mix it like that. So I've thought about it with you saying not heating it up, but I just can't do it. I just can't imagine putting cold water, especially because the alarm will start beeping at me then, and then I'm stressed because the alarm's beeping at me and everything's kicking off. So,
my heater broke when I was mixing this 75-litre batch earlier on this week. I thought, I need to go out and buy one, but I don't have time. So I just kept the circulation pump going, and it did mix cold, to be fair.
Yeah.
I still heated it up. I went out to the shop and bought a new heater, and I put it in for that reason, Gareth, that like, I just feel that, well, if I was going to put 75 litres in a 120-litre tank and it was at 8 degrees or something, I think things would have been a bit peed off, but
It does, if you look at the instructions, they do vary. So if I recall, Tropic Marine does say to heat it. I might be wrong, but I feel like they do say, whereas some others, I think Niles, it says like temperate temperature or something like that. Like it doesn't have to be super warm. And I think the Red Sea, like the Pro one, the one that's really high DKH, I think they're like, don't heat it whilst you're mixing it because it will precipitate because it's so high, the alkalinity. Yeah. So, and they're like, use it within 40 minutes or something like that. So it's worth people listening. Like, we have quite a lot of new people listening. Like, check what the instructions say, and I would just follow that to be safe because there's a reason why they say that.
I use Fauna Marin, and I think it says 20 degrees. So not the full sort of 25 or 26 degrees. I mean, I heat it to that anyway, to be honest with you, and it's mixed by the time it gets to that temperature. So, goodness knows what temperature it actually mixes at. I'm getting to the end of this last bucket of Fauna Marin, and I'm thinking, what do I move on to salt-wise? I think I've already bored everyone with this question already. So
no, I always like talking about salt. It's a perpetual topic.
I don't want to dose. Like, I'm pretty I've got this like low tech low input tank, and I'm stocking livestock that doesn't need a huge amount of monitoring and supplements in order to thrive. And I do have a doser. I looked at it in the garage actually at the weekend, and it filled me full of dread. And I didn't want to put it back on the tank. I don't know why that is, but in an ideal world, I'd quite like to use a slightly higher mixing parameter salt so that I could maybe circumnavigate some of those dosing issues. I mean, I'm not getting a huge amount of take up anyway from the water column because they're softies. I think nutrients are probably more important. I was thinking about that yesterday when I was testing, and I was like, well, actually, I think I need to build a sort of plan or strategy around where I'm going to keep my nutrients in terms of like how happy the livestock is, rather than where I'm going to keep my KH or magnesium or calcium. I don't know if there's any science behind that. That was just my feeling as I was looking at the tank. So yeah, I think higher salt is possible, but there aren't that many salts, are there, that mix at a slightly higher DKH than 8 and 450 for calcium, and what is it, like 1300 for magnesium most mix at. So there is the Red Sea one.
Instant Ocean mixes higher. So it's weird. A lot of the, I'll say a lot, there's not that many, but the I don't want to sound, I hope this doesn't sound like it's come across bad, but like I don't want to say lower quality, that's not the right word, but the cheaper salts, so things like Aquatics, Instant Ocean, they all have really high DKH. And I've always wondered why, because surely it costs more to buffer them up higher. So I always wonder, like, why is it a trend that cheaper ones have higher elements? I don't know why that is. It's the same with reef crystals and stuff as well. I think I don't know if they would have the corresponding like higher traces as well. I don't know whether you care about the traces or if it's just the big three.
I mean, I've got a bit of A and K that I could always put in, but then you might as well start dosing then. Once
trace on it. Definitely.
I am willing to. I've got a peri pump that I've run calc on in the past, and I think that I could set that. I'd be happy to set that up and just have a continuous drip of calc in to the sump at the sort of rate of evaporation. I mean, in that body of water, it's not going to do a huge amount, but then I'm not going to get a huge amount of take up. So that seems like a perfect solution. So maybe I just keep with the salt that I'm currently using, or one with similar parameters, and set up calc. I just need somebody that's a whiz on a 3D printer to print me a little shelf. But yeah, I think that would also be a good move. So that's, I suppose, another New Year's resolution for me to get that set up.
Are you not tempted to all for reef, given that it's a fairly simple dose? In that, like, if you're going to be dosing calc, you could dose all for reef, and that should do technically everything. Like, don't get me wrong, we've talked before, haven't we, about the fact that the tanks always take up at the same rate. But anyway, like, as an easy dosing, easy covers everything, both your KH and your traces.
Yeah. I did put some over reef on. I don't know if you remember, and my magnesium was crazy. DKH and calcium were absolutely fine. Magnesium was off the chart.
That's weird. Yeah,
really weird. I mean, I don't think that anything's really taking up DKH or calcium in any great amount anyway. So I took it off. And I've always, as you say, Gareth, been a little bit put off by it, because when I was into the dosing, I was into like making my own and making sure that every parameter was sort of satisfied, and that just seems like a bit of a cop out, maybe. I don't know. I think it's probably about me than the product. I love Tropic Marine. I think they do great supplements. So no reflection on them. I think it's more me. But yeah, I don't know. I do have some all for reef, and I could put that on the peri pump as well. And I could dose it in the same way as calc as well, I imagine.
Yeah.
So maybe it's something to look at. Interestingly, when I tested magnesium, bearing in mind that I've done several large water changes since that point. When I tested the magnesium at the weekend, it was still off the chart. I mean, it was less off the chart, but I think it's probably more to do with, is it stratification in the salt? Is that what they call it? Where your elements sort of separate within the bucket. And I think that's probably what I'm going up against there.
Whereabouts are you up to in your test kit in terms of like the bottle? Because I find when I get towards the end of my magnesium test kits with the Salifers, the last bit, the results go crazy. And I've noticed it a few times. I get really high readings. And I'm usually, at that point, I check where it's up to, check it's in date. And pretty much every time I've replaced it, it's been back to where I expect. So I don't know if you're coming towards the end of the test kit or not.
It's still well in date, and I've not used that much of it, but it's been open for a while. So I have bought a new one and used that, and it's similar.
I saw today actually that Tropic Marin and Fauna Marin have collaborated on a new salt that's called something like Purity or something like that. And I think didn't really understand what it was for. I think it basically doesn't have any traces in it. It's just salt. It's just the big three, and then I think it said molybdenum and something else, maybe iodine, but it didn't have anything else in there. And they said it was for cleansing and for tanks where there's like super control on on traces and things like that. Oh, and then detoxification was the other time where you might use it, but I couldn't really understand why. I couldn't see the use case for it. And I was also curious, like, these are two competing companies. Why are they? It was just curious, like, why are they collaborated together on this sort? I wonder if it's because very few people are going to buy it, so they have to like collaborate to make it worth basically making it. But I don't know. I just wondered, can you see any benefit to that?
I can see a commercial benefit to it. Why give them the trace for free in the salt? Make them pay for it in the bottles.
I was about to say, they've both set up ICPs, haven't they, recently? So they're well geared up for doing that kind of moonshiners approach. If you go on to, but in fact, have you done ICPs with both of them? Because it's clearly the same people doing their ICPs, because the results page looks the same, like everything's pretty much the same bottles, same. So maybe they're doing behind the scenes, they're doing more collaboration than we realize. But I'm with James on that. Like it's definitely gearing up for the kind of drop bottle kind of people who want to do a drop in here and a drop there. You can't get any better than clean salt and throw your own trace in, can you?
So is the idea you're adding like trace-free salt so that it doesn't mess up your, like every time you do a water change, it doesn't mess up the levels or whatever? I don't really understand it.
I reckon you're adding your own trace to the salt, aren't you? So you have, that's the base level, and then you kind of drop into your mix or your trace, so to the levels you need, to the levels you want, rather than the topping up. So you have your regular salt, don't you, with certain levels in. Maybe you need only a few micrograms more of one element. Okay. So rather than that, you say, I'll just start from the base. So I quite like it as an idea for those who are into that level of control. No one else that sells just the salt, do they? Where you can do it. So he's adding a bit more to your salt. So yeah, I quite like it as an idea. Not for me, but I like it.
I mean, when I had the 4 foot, the SBS tank, and I was making those dosing solutions, I suppose I was doing something fairly similar, right? But just for dosing solutions rather than for salt. So, if you've got somebody that's got the time and wants to manage the tank in that way, then, assume that would be a good product for them. How big that market is, or how many people buy it, I don't know. Or even I don't know if I've even got the right end of the stick there. I need to. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I saw just an Instagram post and I had a quick skim of it. It might be I've misunderstood it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It was like a trace-free salt. But I didn't get the detoxification thing. Maybe if your trace levels are high.
One of the problems that I came up against, and I think that it was probably a contributing factor to the shutdown, to the crash that I had, was I think that if you end up with sort of, quite high trace elements, then you can sort of attract cyano. So when I started getting cyano on my sandbed and on my rocks, I backed off the trace completely. In fact, I made dosing solutions with no trace in order to try and get that back under control. Ultimately, it didn't work, but there's definitely something in that, isn't there?
Right.
If you want to try and dilute something that's in your tank.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if anyone uses it and what they use it for. Okay, Gareth, any New Year's resolutions from you?
No.
Basically said you don't have any.
Yeah, like I say, I have such a set routine. It probably makes me a boring reefer, but it makes me a steady reefer. So, like, generally, I can't think of anything. I guess the one thing I could say, it's not really a resolution, it's just a fact, is I think I've reached my full stocking in terms of what I'm going to purchase for my main tank, my home tank. So it's not really a resolution. It's just the fact that I don't have any space left.
So
But
no more
I think
purchases in 2026
no,
is your resolution.
I don't think so. Well, yeah, but I mean, I'll give myself a little caveat of I think a few softies to fill the gap. So it might be like a Zoro or some clove polyps just to fill in no man's land between the warring LPS. But yeah, I think I'm done buying stock, if I'm honest, in that respect. So yeah, that'll be a change. So maybe not a resolution, but a New Year's change. I'll go with that.
Okay. What is your schedule then? So you talked about this regiment that you have of mixing water and stuff. What is there anything else you do religiously every week?
So Monday is my fish tank morning. I just get everything done. So I'll top up the RO, top up the dosing solutions, and then kind of like alongside that, although I don't do it as well, is I have reminders on my phone. So it's like every month or two to acid dip the gyres. I have another reminder to do my T5 change. So that's roughly every 6 months to do one side and then the other side. So I tend to try and set things up like that as reminders and as a regular thing because I just know I won't do it. And it's not that I'm lazy; it's that I just forget. And then once I've forgotten, it's gone. Like it's literally like a black hole. If it's out of my mind, it'll never come back again until someone says, "Oh, what did you do about that?" I'm like, "Oh, I've not done that for like 3 years." So yeah, that's my usual. Oh, like the skimmer. So I realized at Christmas, I was like, what is that funny noise? I'd forgotten I even got a skimmer because it fell off my routine. So Mondays normally empty the skimmer, but I had a couple where I didn't have much in there, so I didn't empty it. And then it came off my routine, it was gone. So yeah, 2 months later, and I was like, I should probably empty that skimmer. Look at it, it's like frothing over the top. And I mean, I have it really skimming like so little. It takes 2 months to fill it up, so it's not a problem, but it's thick. It's absolutely thick. You can spread it on toast if you want to. It's like the sandwich space spreads. Do you remember them as a kid? Was it like fish sandwich spread? I reckon that's probably
fish
I think
skimming.
you still buy those. I haven't seen them in a long time. But...
No.
I remember going to a fancy restaurant on holiday and ordering fish pate or something, expecting something quite nice, and it was one of those things in a little jar. I was just like, oh, like this is just from the supermarket. Okay, what are my New Year's resolutions? So my first one is to get back into a better testing schedule. So everybody has these kind of similar resolutions, but boring but necessary, I guess. So yeah, I got quite bad at it when I had the aquabiz on, especially because I was like, well, alkalinity is fine, but it led to issues with calcium getting really low, for example, and magnesium got really high, I think. And it's so easy to let it slip. You just have one busy weekend or whatever, and then that's it. It's not going to be tested for 2 weekends, and then you only have to have something else come up as well, and then it's 3 weeks that you haven't tested. So, going to try and get into a better schedule. I don't know the best way to do that, though. Like, do I say okay, without fail, Wednesday night is testing night, or do I do? I can't decide whether it's best to do it on the weekend or an evening. I find the problem is testing, especially this time of year, in the evening, the colors. I can't read them.
That's true.
I really struggle. Like I started doing it the other night, and I was like, is this pink? Is this orange? I don't know where. Like I couldn't tell when it was. I noticed that before actually, that if I compared my ALK with Salafer and Hannah in the evenings, they would often be quite different. Whereas in the day it was fine. And I think it's just because I can't read the endpoint as easily.
You should do it in the same room. Like that's what I tend to do. Is I try and do it under the exact same light, so that that color spectrum of the light is different. So like the lights in this room, the lights in the kitchen are different. So I'll do it under the same light just for that same reason. It does make a big difference, but yeah, that'd be my recommendation.
Is it that important to test that regularly? I mean, I think that if you've got maybe a tank full of SPS, you might want to look at it weekly. It moves around during the day so much that you look at it on a Tuesday or
you have to test it at the same time. I think, right? That's something you have to try and do. I seem to have to babysit the numbers quite a lot, and that might just be a function of the fact that I have small tanks. So maybe that's why I feel like I need to test quite a lot. But for me, the biggest one is nutrients. They just are always going too low. It's never a time where I'm like, okay, the tanks are just sailing. I don't have to do anything. They're just there. There's always something's low, something's high, something's off. They're both in quite a good position now, but I struggle really with nutrients to keep them stable.
Do you have an auto feeder or do you do cubes?
I don't have auto feeders, no. So, and yeah, probably my feeding is a bit irregular. So it's every probably other day I feed frozen. Got one fish that doesn't eat pellet food or flake food or anything, so that I primarily feed frozen for that one. And I feed quite a lot. Yeah, otherwise I'm feeding like pellets or flakes a couple of times a day usually. But yeah, sometimes on a really busy day it will just be a quick dash of pellets in. But I've got quite a lot of fish in the lagoon now, and they're all quite small little fish. So I feel like I probably need to feed them quite regularly. So I'm feeding quite a lot. High nutrients aren't an issue. It's really, I'm so scared of them bottoming them out again, because that always causes dinos for me. So, which have been the bane of my life for the last year. So I really don't want those to come back. So I'd almost rather have higher nutrients, to be honest now. But yeah, I would just love to get to the point where it's like with my old tank, it was like I could leave it. I could not test calcium for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and it was fine. Whereas I feel like now, every time I test it, I'm like something's high, something's low, something needs correcting. And I don't know whether it's just because they're both quite young tanks still, or what. But
I was going
yeah,
to say your main tank's had a lot of change this year, hasn't it? In terms of it's gone through various stages of algae and pest dino things and like hot temperatures
yeah,
and things. So I could believe it's not very stable yet.
yeah,
It's had a rough ride in that kind of respect, hasn't it?
yeah,
So whereas your old tank was steady Eddie for a long
yeah.
time. So
I think it's an age thing. Like I set this tank
yeah,
up in February last year, and it's been a bit rubbish, in
Mm,
terms of algae outbreaks and cyano and nutrients being really high, and it's just been a bit of a battle. But actually, it feels like it's turned a corner over this last few weeks, and I don't think it's anything that I've done necessarily. Maybe I've been a little bit more attentive to it over Christmas because I've had a bit more time, but I just think it takes, a good 10 months to a year to sort of get over the sort of aches and pains of it being a new environment. I don't know.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
mature.
Yeah, I don't think I've mentioned it because I did. Yeah, I did this basically as soon as work was finished. The next day, I went to Lechlade Maidenhead Aquatics because they had a big. They imported a huge lump or a load of live rock from Indo, yeah. And for a while, I mean, listeners will know I've complained a lot about my SBS cube. And yeah, for a while I've been thinking about completely replacing it, like almost restarting it with new sand, new rock, live rock, basically. So yeah, I did that. I went and got like 10 kg of live rock, completely restarted the tank, changed the scape completely. Because I think a big problem with that tank as well, the way it was set up before was flow. Like I had SPS like on the bottom, like on the sand bed almost, because I was hoping that eventually they'd grow up and give all the height to the tank. But that makes it in a small cube, it makes it really difficult to get flow to them without then kicking up all the sand, without, it's just really, really difficult to get pumps that aren't also visually horrible, all over the tank. So basically what I've done is like raise up the scape a lot more. So it's like, I don't know, it goes up to like 2/3, I would say. And that's enabled me to get acropora and stuff basically on the top of that. And now they're getting a lot more flow, I think. And then around the bottom, kind of the easier SPS. And everything seems to look much happier. The polyps are much better. I can see flow is better. And the dinos are gone. Thank God. That was kind of the main reason I did it. Yeah.
Hooray.
There's some lovely coralline and stuff growing on this rock. Some weird ass algae as well. There's this really weird, like tentacly. It looks like an anemone. I think one of you said really
Yeah.
fleshy green stuff. Very delicate. It's kind of cool, but it's interesting. The snails, the trochus snails, are like plowing through it, which is unusual because I didn't think of them as eating like it's basically a macro algae, but they are plowing through it, which is nice. At first, it kind of scared me. I was like, oh god, what is this stuff? And it's only growing on one rock, which is interesting. So, but yeah, they're plowing through that. I think it'll be gone relatively soon. It looks like spaghetti, like long tendrils. So that's the kind of major change for me. And it's really surprising how quickly the tank has sort of turned a corner, a bit like your tank, James. Suddenly, acros, which have been looking sort of sickly brown for 6 months, are like bright, colorful. Their polyps are out. And I don't know how much of that is due to the live rock. And I also did about an 80% water change as well. So some of that could be influencing it. But it just suddenly looks so much nicer. I'm not getting that horrible algae, like brown crap everywhere. Just looks so much better. So I'm hoping that's a bit like your tank, James. It's hoping it's turned the corner. parameters are all good now. So I really want to try and maintain this and just finally get this thing like rocking and growing out. Yeah, it's another New Year's resolution for me is kind of stability, I guess. So that kind of links to the testing, but I really just want to try and keep things stable now. Like no more stupid mistakes, no more getting complacent. Like let's try and keep on top of it now. We've kind of reset. Both tanks are good parameters. No really bad algae or anything. Let's try and keep it like it is now. So that's kind of my goal is, and it kind of go a bit like you were saying, Gareth, as well. They're both full. Like I don't see myself buying really any more coral, although I've got quite a lot coming from Signature Frags next week, I think. We did a bit of a swap. Apart from that, I don't plan to add anything else. So I'm hoping like that also helps with stability. It's like nothing, maybe a few more invertebrates or something. So those are kind of my two big ones, is like getting on a better testing schedule to try and maintain this stability essentially.
I mean, I'm going to be buying lots of coral. That's a New Year's resolution right there. But I'm going to make sure it's going to stay soft. That's going to be the discipline in me. Is I always get tempted by the skeletons, by the SPS. I think I've been sending you guys pictures of the tank, going like, trying to get some plating. Monty's there, and like but actually, I just need to stick with it and get some.
Plating sponges.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for like soft coral, sponge garden with like some algae, and just sort of stick to it like that. But I need some height. Like all the top areas of my escape are empty, waiting to be filled. It's quite full around the sort of bottom layers. And that it's only going to grow out. So I need some gorgonians, some more sponges, maybe. Some bush corals. The challenge is like with those like trees and bush corals, it's like so easy to get sucked into the MPS, isn't it? And
yeah,
there's some absolute stunners.
Yeah.
But then
you got your you set up a refuge now though, right? That might help.
I did set up a refuge. Yeah, set that up over the weekend. The mangroves have gone.
Oh yeah.
I had a like significant jumping event. I don't know. I feel really bad actually. I lost 3 fish. Jumped out one night. Kids found them crispy on the doormat. I mean, they'd gone some distance as well. They're like a meter and a half away from the tank. So
Yikes.
Something properly spooked them. But it was my fault. I'd taken the jump guard off because I had the mangroves growing at the back of the tank, and I hadn't got round to rebuilding a new jump guard. And anyway, it came down to the decision of once they jumped, it was like, do I build a new jump guard and stick with the mangroves, or do I ditch the mangroves? I bought this grow light for the mangroves, and to be honest, it was quite ugly. My wife hated it. It was sort of attached to a shelving unit nearby the tank, and sort of wires trailing everywhere. It was a bit of a budget setup. So I thought of my wife and thought, what would she do? And she would have ditched the mangroves and repurposed the grow light. So the grow light's now in my sump. So reverse lit, bit of Cheeto in there. And that's gonna help manage my nutrients. I think it's just gonna be better for the tank overall. Feels like the right decision.
On the cube, I have a skimmer, and I'll work in this room all day long. And recently, it's been really getting on my nerves that skimmer, just the constant like all day long. I think it's maybe I need to clean the pump or something. It seems to be like especially buzzy at the not buzzy but vibrating a lot at the moment. So maybe I need to give it a good clean or something. But more and more, I'm thinking maybe actually a refugium would be better. I always wonder, do you think skimmers actually do that much?
I think they're quite important in an SPS tank. I ran a skimmer and a fuge. So like when I had the SPS Dom tank, I had the downpipe going into a fuge. Yeah. And I let the fuge take out all any nutrients that it could do. And then I skimmed quite dry. And it's more about dissolved organics, I think, the skimmer. I think it does something quite different. And I'm not saying that like your coral health, like if you've got sensitive corals, again, this is James talking. There's no science here, much to Gareth and your disdain, Chris. But
Yeah, get out.
My feeling is, from what I've read and what I've experienced, like if you've got a lot of sensitive corals, like a lot of acropora, and you're not dealing with your dissolved organics, at some point they're gonna cause you problems. And whether that's like year 3 or year 6 or year 8, who knows? And then I also think it depends on what else you use or do in order to be able to manage your tank. Like if you're carbon dosing, you need a skimmer. Like
Yeah,
I wouldn't personally carbon dose or anything that sort of looks to precipitate any sort of organics out of the water column without something that could take it out. And then I also think that skimmers are quite useful. Like if you're dealing with, I mean, obviously in my tank, I don't really care too much about the nutrient levels. I want there to be sufficient nutrients, right? I'm not so worried about the dissolved organics because they're not very sensitive. But you can do some like quite interesting techniques. I don't know if Christian, did he tell us when we were like, I don't know if I mentioned it when we interviewed him, but he's got his sort of skimmer water change technique, which basically he water changes through the skimmer if he's trying to reduce nutrients quite rapidly. So, he might change 25 litres, 50 litres or whatever, but it's done through wet skimming and through the skimmer. So there are, I do think that they have a place, and I think that most tanks would probably benefit from one, particularly if they're keeping sensitive corals, and depending on how else they look to manage that tank with supplements. You're using like marine snow, for example. Like whatever happened to that? Remember when everyone was using marine? I was thinking about that on the car ride. Everyone was like making it snow in their tank, weren't they, a year or so ago? And like you just don't see that now. If you're doing that sort of thing, then you probably do need a skimmer.
Yeah, I'm not sure you do need a skimmer. I think it depends what you're doing. Like you're saying, with there's other ways to get things out of the water, isn't there? In terms of like filter rollers and things like that. Having said that, I do still have a skimmer, but I skim so dry. As I say, I empty every month or two, but I think it's good for that moment when you do something stupid. Like, do you know what I mean you put something in the water? Maybe you've got something on your hands. For that reason, it's worth having because it does skim out. Like I had a I don't think I've said actually. So my college tank, I virtually crashed it just before Christmas.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
saved that. Yeah, exactly. We haven't really chatted into that, have we? So I had 2 jawfish in there. They weren't. I hadn't got time to get them onto pellets, so I was a bit worried about leaving them for the college is locked for 10 days. So I was a bit worried about leaving them without any food for 10 days, as it turns out I should have done because they've probably been fine. But I was set up a auto doser with RS preserved, like pickled mysis in a bottle, which I think it would have worked. But what I made a proper schoolboy error of setting this doser up to pump in what is quite a nutrient-rich juice collection. And I think the actual liquid it was in I probably put too much in one go as I was practicing and getting all set up, and caused I thought at the time actually I thought I'd caused an ammonia spike. You guys spotted it actually before I did in the moment of the panic, and I sent out the SOS. Like two clear minds pointed me in the right way, which is actually it was a bacterial bloom, and probably if I'd had a skim on the tank, it'd have A, taken out all the oils, and B, if it hadn't, it'd have also helped with the bacteria. So that was a stupid mistake. I don't think the tank needs it, and I don't think I'll put one on it. But because I didn't have it, I did then suffer. So I think it's quite a good backup. So yeah, in that respect, it's worth having one just for that peace of mind, that safety blanket.
I think the other thing that a skimmer does that is often overlooked is it's a great oxygenator, if that's a word. Like, again, there are other ways of managing that, right? But the amount of tanks that you see with low flow, low export, skimmer would really benefit them in that case. It's how you piece your tank together and what your overall plan is. But, would a skimmer benefit most tanks out there? I think it probably would.
Okay, maybe I'll keep it then.
So that's the difference, isn't it? Is it benefiting it, and does it need it? Does it need it? Possibly not. Would it benefit it? I agree, James. You're probably right. I think most tanks probably would.
Yeah, so my reasoning was that refugium would be obviously silent, and one issue, is it an issue? I don't know. pH is a struggle because I'm in this room a lot. in a small enclosed room, basically. Even with the window cracked open, it struggles quite a lot with low pH now that it's winter. In the summer, it's fine, it's not a problem. But in the winter, it's an issue. And so, like, being able to run a refugium on a reverse cycle would obviously help with that, I think.
Oxygenation also helps pH though, doesn't it?
I mean, I find actually turning the skimmer off helps keep the pH higher, because what the skimmer does, it doesn't just add oxygen, it adds CO2, right? So it's adding in CO2 and carbonic acid. So when I've had it off, it's actually pH has been more stable. Even with I have a what's it called, the soda lime stuff that takes the CO2 out on the inlet of the airline for the skimmer. Yeah, even with that, it's still a bit of an issue. And I mean, the coral are fine and stuff, but I just know from experience that I get better growth and I think healthier coral when pH is higher. It's like 7.7,
That's
even
low,
maybe a
isn't
little bit
it?
lower, like at its lowest. And then by the, like now, for example, at the end of the day, the end of the lighting period is 8.12. So that's not too bad, but really want it above 8 all the time, I would say, for an SPS tank.
And you're super focused on pH as well, so I can imagine
Yeah,
that's a tough challenge for you in
I've
terms of
been
dealing with low pH.
I've been much more lax on that recently because, well, yeah, what can I do about it? But I even, like, I do have the window open even when I'm working in here in the day, just a crack, but it's obviously not enough. It's not enough exchange going on, I guess. But it's more the nighttime crash. You see it like completely plummet. So I do like the idea of the reverse schedule refugium. I've also never had one, so I'm just kind of curious, like, what would it be like as a...
You should definitely do it then, if you've never had one.
But then I also agree with you with all of these benefits of a skimmer, right? So
why don't you run both of them?
I do have the room. It's a tiny sum.
Oh, yeah,
and the reason I want to get rid of it is the noise. I did think about running it at night, but the problem is it really affects my water level in the sump, because it's only basically, it's a really simple sump. It's just 2 chambers. And I've got a filter roller in the first chamber, and that takes up like almost all the space. There's a little bit of space for like where I have dosing lines and stuff like that. So I have to put the skimmer in the return chamber basically. So when that goes off, it just messes up all the water levels. So I did think about having it on just at night, the skimmer, but then in the morning, then it's all gurgling over the weir, and I can't work because all I can hear is like water gushing behind me and stuff. So yeah, challenges again of a small tank. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of debating trying one just to see, like, does it fix this pH issue? Would it be quieter? Would it actually do a better job of controlling nutrients? I wonder whether, as I said, I don't really think skimmers do all that much, but I think they're doing something different, aren't they? They're taking out proteins, they're taking out fats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then so would a refugium, presumably it's more taking up the broken down.
The breakdown, but further down the line, isn't it?
Yeah.
I actually think they don't refugiums produce a lot of organics as well. I know they make your tanks yellower and stuff, so I don't know. There's pros and cons to both, isn't there?
Yeah, it just comes down to that question, doesn't it? Like, how do you want to manage it, really?
No, Skip, you could do a refugium reactor, couldn't you? What they call the A somethings, 3 letters.
Yeah.
ALR.
Yeah. I had one of those before. I looked into one, but it would be too big. Yeah, too big. It's too tall to fit in. Oh no! I think the base was like too wide or something. I basically couldn't fit it in. But do you ever see Coral Euphoria? He does like a bucket refugium. So it's like a black bucket. It's a bit like an algae reactor, except there's no the lights on top going into like a hole in the bucket lid, and then it's just pumping water through that bucket, and you have the algae inside. So it's like a contained refugium. It stops the light spill. It stops Chaeto escape. So do something like that, but on a small scale, I think. So
yeah,
I don't know, I'm still thinking about it, but yeah, I think. And then I thought, I could fit in one of these small, like wine bottle sized skimmers, which might be a bit quieter, maybe. So I don't know.
What skimmer are you running?
Well, it's a Bubble Magus C3.5, and it's worked fine. I've had it years, but yeah, I just noticed it might as well just be like I'm just noticing it more. I notice when the windows are shut, for example, like you hear the tank a lot more, obviously, and when the windows are open and there's kind of more background noise and stuff. But I don't know. Recently, it's just been getting on my nerves, basically. So I was thinking, could I reduce that down? But
Yeah, I don't think you can help with the noise. I mean, for the
Mm.
pH piece, if you wanted to keep the skimmer, you could run the inlet or the intake out your window or
Yeah.
to bring fresh air
I
in if your
regret,
pH.
because it's on an external wall. I now regret, before I set up the tank, drilling through to the outside and just having a little. But then I have the concern that we're literally 20 meters away is just farmland. And I know for a fact that they spray that with
Oh
pesticides. They
yeah.
spray it with all sorts at certain times of the year. It's quite scary. Sometimes I'll be walking the dog and this just massive sprayer is coming towards me. I remember once walking the dog and there was this oil slick that was all over the dog, all over the lead, like all over my shoes and everything. We had to go home and like wash, basically get it all off. And it's like some sort of pesticide or herbicide that they're applying in like an oil. So that would worry me, but that's getting sucked in. Obviously, you could do a carbon filter, but then, it's just, you can make things very complicated.
Yeah.
Did you have any more New Year's resolutions, James?
No, I think that I've gone through bought more coral, doing water changes weekly. What else am I doing?
Oh, I know. Get your hogfish out.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
right. Get the hogfish out. Do you know what? I'm going to regret saying this in public, so Chris, you might need to cut it out. But when my child came downstairs and said, "Daddy, I think there's been a cat in here," and I said, "What? Why do you think there's been a cat in here?" And she went, "Because all the fish are all over the floor." And the thought crossed my mind, and I thought, "Oh, I hope it's the hogfish."
Yeah. If one was going to jump, you'd want it to be the one that you're
Yeah,
trying to get out.
exactly. And then I felt really bad about it, and I was like, "No, I wouldn't wish that on the hogfish." But
What did jump out of interest?
so a royal grammar, one of the two royal grammars
It's a
jumped.
shame.
Chris, the goby that you gave me, the hyphen, which was actually my favourite fish
That's a shame.
that I had in the tank. I used to really enjoy watching that. And then a banded pipefish, which is the particularly odd one because I've not heard of those jumping before.
Yeah, that's unusual because you don't really think of them as being like big jumpy fish, but yeah, I suppose any fish can jump really. Yes.
I wonder
It's a
I just
shame,
wonder what scared them because something obviously did.
Jump guards on now, though. I take it.
Yeah, jump guards on. That won't help with the hogfish situation. So I need to think. I was actually thinking that
Leave
I'm
a
going to have
hogfish
to
size
get,
hole.
the master fisherman himself, Gareth, over at some point to come and catch it.
I'll bring my harpoon gun.
Did you say you thought it might be the hogfish that scared the other fish, like might have caused them to jump?
I've got no evidence. Of
Yeah.
that, just my prejudice.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Okay, I have one more resolution, and it was to spend less on the tanks or tanks.
Oh, boo.
Yeah, I know, it's a bit boring. But I feel like I'm at a point where, as I said earlier, like I think I've got all the coral I need. I've got I think more or less all the fish that I need. There's a few like more invertebrates I would like. So I haven't had a cleaner shrimp for years. And I was thinking I'd really like to get a cleaner shrimp for the tank behind me because that's quite a high energy system. And the fish that are in there are all quite like mean. And so it's kind of like I can add like a delicate Peterson's shrimp or something in there, bumblebee shrimp or something like that. But like a nice sort of hefty cleaner shrimp would be quite cool, I think. And there's no LPS in there, but I'm trying to feed that it could still food from and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of miss having one of those. I was thinking I'd really like to add a mandarin actually to that tank. I've never kept the classic like blue, like psychedelic mandarin. Been trying to keep an eye out for captive bred ones. I'm sure I've seen them in the UK before, but I can't find them anywhere. And I don't know whether we even get them in anymore, but I know they're super popular in the US, but yeah, it's all just wild caught stuff from what I can tell at the moment.
I think that's the problem is that we've talked about before is actually knowing like the shop's just not.
I think you can tell by the price when they're
and the size of them.
Yeah, you're right. The captive bred ones are tiny. They're usually like a centimeter or something, like really weedy. So either that or the ruby red, like scarlet dragon egg. Yeah,
cool.
I've always wanted a male one of those. I've only ever had a female. And actually, I think even I could get maybe a pair of those. They would be able to fit. So
pair of dragonettes is the way to go. I think if you're going to go for that type of fish, you've got to get two of them.
That might be the only stuff I get. Otherwise, yeah, I think I'm fully stocked on the other tanks. So one other thing I did, or I've started to do, is to put together a map of UK marine stores. So it's a Google map, which you can download and have on your phone at any time point, essentially. And what it does is show you like every LFS or marine focus store in the UK. I don't know how best to share it with people, but maybe I'll put a link to it in our link tree, which you can access via social media. And if you type in like Reefing Radio map of the UK marine store or something like that into Google, it comes up on Ultimate Reef. I made a thread there. And what I've asked people to do is to kind of crowdsource this. So I kind of populated it with a baseline level of stores, which I was aware of. But there's been loads of suggestions by other people on Ultimate Reef, which is one of the big UK forums, in case you've not come across it before. And I'm slowly adding those to it. But yeah, it should be done like within the next week or so. And I think we've probably had all the suggestions that we're going to get. But if other people have, see that there's some missing, do let me know and I'll add that on there. But yeah, the idea is if next time you plan a trip somewhere and you think, well, what stores are around that I could visit, you can just have a look on there and see what's going on. So I think that would be good to make it easier for people to find LFS, which they might not be aware of, and make planning your trips a bit easier. Got lots of guests planned for the following year. Some are confirmed, so I think we can say we've got Jamie Craggs confirmed.
Definitely got Jamie Craggs. That is confirmed. That's in the diary, penciled in. So that's
quite
exciting.
Soon, right? So it should be February that we have him on.
Yeah, that's probably like a next but one episode, isn't it? Something like that might be our next one.
Yeah, there's a few of us. We've got some LFS.
Some big players, we can say, can't we? We've got some big players in the pipeline.
And I mentioned this on Reef Talks live stream, but if there are particular guests or people, it doesn't have to be someone in the industry. It can be a hobbyist that you really admire and you'd love to know how they keep their aquarium, or someone you've seen doing something a bit different, or a fish that, you've always wanted to keep that's really difficult to keep. Let us know, send us these suggestions and we can get them on and have those conversations. If you have any questions for guests that we've got coming up, like Jamie, for example, do send those through and we can feed those into the episode. Okay, well, I think that's everything for this episode. It was nice catching up after Christmas and I'm really excited about everything we've got coming up for the following year. As always, thank you for listening. Tell a friend about us and give our accounts a follow on Instagram. So just as a reminder, Gareth is Fishly Business. I'm So Reef, and James has actually updated his for some photos recently. Yeah, I noticed you've been populating it. So you're Cotswold Reefer or Reef? I can't remember.
Cotswold Reef. Yeah.
Cotswold Reef. Yeah. So yeah, you can actually see James's tank now, and yeah, are you going to become an Instagram whore?
No. Okay. No. But I will put some pictures of the tank up and some coral up there because it makes sense to do it so people can see it.
Yeah, it's nice, I think, to share your tanks, and I really like looking back and seeing the progress and seeing that's grown, or do you remember when I had that weird coral or whatever? So I think it's nice to have that kind of diary in a way. Cool. All right, well, we'll leave it there and we'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Reefing Radio. Subscribe, share, and stay salty. Reefing Radio, over and out.